And hello, YouTube, and welcome back to our next exciting episode of Cover 2 Credits. Today, we will be handling the new CRPG. Apparently, CRPG is a thing now. It's basically just an old school RPG. Your classic in the vein of the old school Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, all of those sorts of things. This game is hot off the Kickstarter presses from Obsidian Entertainment, and it does channel the old school Black Isle feel of games that have been missing for, well, years, honestly. And so far, so good. Although it is very, very difficult to try and give a great sort of review for these sorts of games because they are, one, so long and so inclusive, and honestly, they're so... what's the word I'm looking for here? It's very, objective based on the user. I mean, especially in RPGs. I mean, you got people who think, Final Fantasy VII is the greatest RPG of all time, and some people say that its writing is marginal and it was never that good and it was wildly overrated, and some people like FF9, and some people like Ocarina of Time. So it's all very arbitrary. But there is a baseline of quality that you have to achieve in order to be a great RPG game, and I think this game has all the hallmarks of those sorts of games. So we will walk through character creation here and maybe do a little bit of it. But like I said, for a game, we're talking 40 plus hours of gameplay going to Pillars of Eternity, and that's a long, long time. That's a huge span of gameplay to try and pack into a 3 or 4 or 5 minute review. But anyway, we'll get started and you guys can check it out. Now, obviously, you've got your hard, normal, Path of the Damned, Expert Mode, Tide of Iron, all of that sort of thing. We won't want any of those on because I'm a scrub. But it's got quite a few options, which is good. And a lot of those options aren't undoable from the options menu, which I think is cool. We'll watch the opening cinematic here while I talk about the game. Or better yet, I will skip it and we'll get straight to the character creation. Now, again, fairly generic story, fairly generic setting, at least to start off with. There's no great cinematics here. The graphics are not great, especially compared to a lot of the modern games, but, you don't have to have good graphics. It's an RPG, it's about the story, I understand that. And this game, like I said, was funded with the Kickstarter dollars, so they didn't have a lot of money to blow on top-end cinematics, which are pretty much all smoke and mirrors anyway, in my opinion. So, character creation. Here is the meat and potatoes of all RPGs, and this game gives you some pretty great options. Obviously, male and female. Races. Quite a few races. 6. Because I can count to 6. Excellent. I've got those weird guys with the weird head thing going on. I don't really understand all of that, but whatever. Elves, dwarves, your classic fantasy mix, halfling, elf things. These weird blue people. I don't understand what the blue people are about, but they're big and blue, and they swing hard, so that's excellent. And there are sub-races to each one, which are, again, good. This is a sweet hairdo. I'm totally going with this. Alright. Classes. Lots of classes. And they all have very distinct playstyles and very distinct skill trees, which is, again, pretty much what you've got to have in order to be a good RPG. Huge number of classes. Excellent. I guess we'll just pick something I've never played before for funsies. We'll go... let's see, shapeshift? That'd be fun. Druid, monk. We'll go with a chanter. I don't know what they do, but sure, why not? Alright. Ooh, phrases. Apparently... oh, I really do speak in chants. That's kind of cool. Have one invocation. AoE crush, push, stunned. That sounds fun. These do have some epic names for spells. Alright. Standard attributes: might, con, dex, perception, intellect, resolve. And honestly, it seems like these are pretty, they made it so you don't really have a lot of dump stats. A lot of these are pretty good for pretty much everybody. Even things like intellect, you know, increases your AoE and different stuff. So you'll want to consider, you know, beefing up on a lot of stuff. And staying, you know, as pretty average. Probably give a little too much there. Alright. Dreadfire Archipelago. Old Villa. Sure, why not? The white that wins. Game on. We'll say I am a drifter. Next.
Oh, I've got this. Onward. Steady does it. Well, follow me.
Alright. And we'll hop into the world here. Like I said, we're not going to do a ton of this because, like I said, there's no point in trying to show you great gameplay when there's really not, you know, anything to show you. But, standard quest, we're stuck. I am sick for some reason. Voice acting? Not great. Not terrible. I put it somewhere in the middle. The writing I have seen so far is good, but not great. But like I said, that's RPG writing is pretty objective anyway. It might be your fair, might not be, but I found it pretty good. Again, I haven't seen all of the game yet, but I've seen a decent portion, and it's been solid. So we'll try to get to the first combat here. Alright, got my first companion here, and honestly, the companion personalities are pretty well done. This chick is kind of a bitch, but that's alright. Women are like that occasionally. But she's going to help me find some weed so I stop getting sick. This is the open world map. The combat is click to move, like every RPG you have ever played. Like I said, nothing new or revolutionary here. And we'll see if we can find a wolf or something to fight before we hang this up. Alright. Give me a wolf to fight.
Let's check by those outcroppings.
There we go. Alright. Combat is in sort of real time, but obviously you can pause it with spacebar, and it is divided into turns. Again, like every old school RPG you have ever played. It sort of feels real time, but it is mechanically not. So we will just start punching this wolf to death here. Now, I'm not sure what chanter abilities I really have. I've never been a chanter before. So I'm not sure 100% what these actually do. Oh, that's one chant. So I can switch to this chant. So I'm sort of a crazy deeps right now. Alright. And again, you can give your characters command individually, so I'll just flank this wolf and punch him. Now, as you can see, combat is not super involved. There's a lot of punching. Obviously, if you've got some spellcasters, you're going to be a little more active. But I am playing a fighter as my main, and I pretty much don't do anything. I just stand there and punch over and over again. And granted, he's low enough level to where I don't have all my skills unlocked yet, but combat can be pretty unforgiving, especially at the higher difficulties, unless you are micromanaging your characters extremely well. Now, we will call the gameplay for there, and we'll just talk a bit here at the end. But as you can see, it's very, very old school game. If we zoom in here, you can see the graphics are nothing to write home about. These are hand-drawn landscapes, and when you zoom in, they look like trash. The character models are decent, but you know, it's an indie game with an indie budget, and they did not blow, you know, all their money on polygons. So we will give this a wrap. Now, Pillars of Eternity. Brand new, it's out on Steam. It's $40, which I thought was a pretty high price point. But honestly, it's a extremely quality game. Is it one of the classic RPGs? I would say not, but it does capture that sort of feeling of the old school RPGs, where you're excited to find out what is going to happen next. And I haven't played a game in a long time that made me really, really 100% interested in the story until I got to this one. Now, there's been games that have had good stories, there's been games that I've enjoyed playing and revealing the story, but this game captures that old school vibe that has been years and years long gone. So, again, mediocre graphics, exceptional character creation and depth and customization, as you can see from the character creator. And I didn't show you the level up screen because we didn't get that far, obviously, but it's pretty inclusive. Not the best one I've ever seen, but up there as high quality stuff. The writing, again, nothing to me that makes this a classic, but again, it is quality, it is consistent, and it really, really is engaging in a way that games have been missing for a long, long time. Combat is turn-based tactical combat. If you've played one, you've played all of them. This one does do some things differently, but it is iterations on the classic feel and nothing revolutionary, which I think is a positive for it and not a negative. Again, nothing new, but it does capture, you know, those old school feelings, which is what this game's really going for, and that's what the people who backed it wanted, and that's what it has delivered. So, again, is it one of the greatest games of all time? No. Is it in the same vein as those games? Yes, I think so. It is high quality across the board, and it captures that old school RPG feel that has been missing for a long, long time. So, that is my review. I will give this game an 8 out of 10 as my final rating. Again, not excellent, but good and quality across the board, and it delivers it consistently throughout the game experience. So, that is cover 2 credits, and we are wrapping up Obsidian's new CRPG, Pillars of Eternity. If you liked Baldur's Gate, if you liked Neverwinter Nights, if you've liked, what's that game, Planescape Torment, all of those games along that line, pick this up. It is a little pricey at $45, at least I think, but I've been spoiled by the recent spat of, you know, $20 and $25 indie games. But there's a lot of content in here for that $45, and the Steam, you know, spring-summer sale is probably only a few months off. If you want to wait till then and pick it up on the cheap, you probably will be able to. But again, at the $45 price point, it is a great buy. If it was lower than that, it would be an excellent buy. There's a ton of gameplay in here, a ton of great story, and a ton of character customization in a genre that has been sorely lacking for a long time. Although it has rallied as of late, there have been some great RPGs coming out, especially the classic ones with the new Kickstarter. And, you know, now I'm feeling like, at first I was a little leery of Kickstarter, but as we've seen, there's been a lot of shams and a lot of games that have just been terrible coming out of the pipeline. Goddess is one that just was a train wreck from the very beginning. But we've gotten games like Darkest Dungeon. We've gotten games like Divinity Original Sin. Again, I think the Divinity Original Sin was a little better than this game because it was, again, it won about 1 million Game of the Year awards from pretty much everybody. It was an awesome game. This, along the same vein, not as I don't think it's quite as good, but that game is also a little more modernized, and this game is a little more old school. So depending on what kind of flavor you're looking for, you might have a preference over one or the other. But again, Darkest Dungeon, Divinity Original Sin, Pillars of Eternity, the new Dragon Age came out. It has been actually a pretty good year for the single player RPG. Oh, and Bloodborne coming out, which isn't really in the same vein, but it's at least a single player RPG experience. There's been a lot of good ones, and again, this is one more for the pile for a great RPG year. Divinity Original Sin, pick it up on Steam. It's great. So, this is Kevin. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for tuning in to my review, and thank you for staying till after the credits.